what is it? Bob, blah, blah.
Bob blah blah.
Bob, blah, blah. Out of all the things, that's one of those things I can never wrap my head around that name, Bob.
Bob
Lob.
Lob.
So it's just 3 words.
Yep.
Bob, is Lob his middle name?
No, the last name is Loblaw.
So is it hyphenated?
No, it's Lob Law though. But just think like Lob. So it's Bob Lob Lob.
Bob
Lob.
Loblaw.
Yeah. Now say it while it's together fast.
I don't care what Bob Loblaw says to me. I'm not answering his phone call.
Exactly. He's bored. I'm Bob Loblaw.
Okay, so Ziggy, So Ziggy, the video I posted a couple days ago, and that one's been kind of catching like wildfire. A lot of people liked it. A lot of people, I think, secretly really just enjoyed watching me get like manhandled by a big dog. Like, oh, big bad dog trainers, not so big and bad. So Ziggy is a giant monster of a guy. He's luckily very sweet and doesn't want to bite or do any damage because that would be a horror show. So it's been a really good challenge. That video, if you haven't seen it, it's one to check out. Shows me working with this guy, and he literally just drugged me all around. When he first got dropped off, he only had a flat buckle collar on because his owner forgot his prong collar, and he just literally he pulled me everywhere. It was terrible. So I got a prong collar on him, and it got like this much better, but not much better. So you'll be able to watch that. But I emerged victorious, and by the end of the session, we've got Mr. Ziggy bouncing and behaving, and he's walking because the good dog always gets their man.
They always get their man.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So I got some hater mail from that.
Oh, yeah.
I got some haterade coming in. The best advice I got was that I should have been training that inside of a facility with stinky cheese.
Yes.
And that's a good insight.
Yes.
So if I would have gone with the stinky cheese because he wanted to sniff bushes a lot,
right?
And so I think what she's getting at was that I wasn't utilizing the natural stuff that I had. Yeah, the natural instincts and the possibilities I had on tap. Which if I would have had some stinky cheese, maybe he would have stopped pulling.
He would have pulled.
He would have looked into my eyes. Yep. We would have had a moment. Mm-hmm. I would have said heel, and we would have just walked and just went straight off into the sunset. So I'm going to look into that. I'm going to look into some stinky cheese stuff in the future with Ziggy and maybe other dogs like that.
Dogs,
but stinky cheese.
Dogs. Yeah,
I mean, it's got to be stinky because it's got to like have some value to it. So anyways, we try and do what we can, but we're learning like everyone else. So it's a process, right? We're developing here, in front of you on video. We're developing in front of you. Anyway, so that's Ziggy. We're having a good time with him. Luckily, he's a sweet guy. And you missed. I had like a bit of an Iron Lady wrestling thing with him today. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Today?
Yeah.
Go on.
He just tried to dive inside the kennel and and tried to jump on. Anyways, it wasn't pretty, but everybody's good. Everybody survived. Everybody's safe. He's doing great. What else is going on? We had Jeff. Help me with Jeff's last name. Jeff.
Stacy? Yeah.
Stacy, right? Yeah. I always want to say Jeff Weber, but Jeff Weber's the other T3 guy. So Jeff Stacy, who is here. Smelled terrible stinky stuff. Cheese. Yeah, I think so. Isn't that ironic? Did you bring stinky cheese to train the dogs with?
Might be Hercules.
It might be Hercules, aka MC Stinky Cheese. So we had Jeff here, who's awesome. Jeff went to T3 when you go to Rhode Island a few months back, and he is a jack of all trades, a veritable Renaissance man.
He really is.
I think he's been the president of the United States at some point.
Once. Yeah.
and everything else. So
Notary, he's becoming a cop, he's a dog trainer.
He's been a mechanic.
He's been a janitor, he's been huge in the music industry.
Yeah.
He's like...
Yeah, he does Seiko, motorcycle like racing stuff on the weekends.
Motorcycle racing.
He does everything. So, so anyways, it was awesome to have Jeff here. He got to witness all the fun stuff as we kind of wrestled with Mr. Ziggy, and we got to cover lots of really awesome training stuff, lots of good e-collar work and foundational work. And it's just always cool to have a shadow person here, someone who's really motivated, really wants to learn, and you just get to share all your good stuff. So that was awesome. And what about you? Anything, you've been less and less on the scene because you're busy like handling projects. You've been like gallivanting around getting pictures taken and stuff.
That's right. So we've got a couple things on the way. So,
in the pipe. In the pipe,
if you will. We've got things that I'm working on are our first book, which is going to be really exciting. That'll definitely be out by Christmas at least, but earlier than that.
Yeah.
And then
and this one's going to be, because we've got 2 books in the pipe.
Yep.
This one, are we at liberty to discuss or no?
Yeah. I'm not sure when the second book will come out, but we're hoping by Christmas as well.
Yeah.
So we've got our first book, which is all kind of good dog tips and blogs and things like that put together and elaborated on.
Yeah. And probably some fresh new stuff as well that I'll include in there.
Yep, and some updates and some pictures of clients that we've had in the past. So that's kind of fun. And then
and I'm excited just to butt in, but like it's not just a collection of like stuff we've already done. It's really like a lot of the Facebook tips, they just go away.
Yeah.
Right. So once, even if you like it, unless you like copy it and print it out, it's gone. But we're trying to put together what we feel is, I think both of us agree that what we feel is the most like comprehensive psychological, like that sounds deep, but like the psychological handbook for people to read, like beyond the training of like, now you pull the leash up. Yeah. It's really much more about the psychological components and aspects of living with dogs and the things that seem to trip people up.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting. I mean, for us, I don't know if we even get a working title, like Good Dog Handbook or something like that. Or
Love them by leading them.
Love them by leading. Yeah. I think that's a great title. But the main goal of it is that somebody goes to get a dog, they adopt a dog, a new dog, and the first thing, like that's the book you go get.
Yeah.
And yes, you get a training book, and hopefully you get our DVDs too, but you get that book, and that book really tells you about what's cooking with dogs, what's cooking between you and your dog, and how to avoid a lot of the common mistakes in order to make sure you guys have a really great life together. So I think if we manage to get like even anywhere in the neighborhood of what we're trying to achieve with that, I think both of us will be pretty thrilled about that.
Really, really nice.
Our whole goal is to kind of like be able to get all this information out so everybody has the ability to train their dogs.
Yep.
Like even if we were to go sit on an exotic beach somewhere, they could still train their dogs.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
That's a good goal.
We want to spread the love as much as possible.
Yeah.
And then we're also working on our e-collar DVD, so that's a little bit of work. Sean and I are doing notes for that constantly, and
that's hard to watch.
Hard to watch for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. All the footage looks awesome.
Yeah.
Our team and you help directing it. I mean, it's just, it looks amazing, but it's hard, to be honest. It's hard to watch yourself.
As you're the star.
Yeah.
I get that.
Once the lighting's better and you guys make me look a little more handsome and cut out any of the silly stuff I say, then maybe I'll be better with it.
I've spent my whole life looking at me. Like, I actually, guys, when I audition, I don't audition that much anymore for acting stuff, occasionally here and there, but I typically send stuff in, like I tape it and send it to my current manager or my agent in New Orleans, and I have to like shoot it and then like cut it myself of me. Like I did one today where I had to like sing.
You did one today?
Yeah, I had to sing a show tune. Like
what tune?
How do you solve the problem like Maria from Sound of Music?
Can you give us a little teeny bit? No.
So anyway, so I was watching it and I was like, I can't believe this is what I mean, the stories that I have of like my favorite, I think I told you guys this, my favorite commercial audition I ever went on, I had to spin in a circle laughing, letting my hair in a fan.
No.
For Pantene.
Oh, really?
Literally.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's my life. So I get to, You get off easy.
No.
Once a year.
But it's long. It's hours of footage to sit through. You're like, oh. And then I said this. Oh. So, anyways, awesome. Okay, great. So, is that pretty much where we're at?
Yeah.
The state of affairs, everything
couple
good?
Things. Yep. We got major projects right now: the book and the DVD.
So our big goal is that by Christmas, everybody is able to get the new DVD, long before Christmas for the DVD, and then the book as well.
Yep.
And so you guys can just do your thing, train your dogs.
Yeah.
Who needs us, right?
Yeah, 2 DVDs, 2 books, you're done.
Yeah, just forward all correspondence to Miscellaneous Exotic Beach.
Exactly.
Anyways, shall we jump?
Yes.
You ready?
Yep.
Can we jump into the show?
Yep.
Go, go, go?
Do it.
Okay. Let me just check it. I'm going to check my data before I jump in, make sure. This is going to be the first time I don't have to gaze down after the fact. I'm going to do it before.
Awesome.
Baby steps. Hey everybody, it's Sean from The Good Dog, and this right here to my right is the lovely Laura Morgan. Pantene, lovely Laura Morgan. And this...
Did not book that.
You didn't book that commercial, sorry guys. Boo, Pantene. And this, all this stuff that you can't see, these beautiful houndies around us and all this good stuff, this is The Good Dog's Q&A Saturday episode, No Look, number 38.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! Take the training wheels off. I'm ready. So we're ready to kick in the next show. I think we're like 3 episodes into like new format, having like new graphics and stuff like that. And hopefully you guys are digging that. Hopefully you're digging the pro sound. I mean, come on, this is like a pro outfit. So hopefully everybody's digging that. And we're getting some nice feedback.
Big Microphones for helping us out with some pretty nice little.
Are they sponsoring the show?
No. Oh wait, never mind.
Oh, so, get rid of them.
Get rid of them. Never mind.
Big thanks. Oh, sorry, no name available there. Okay.
Question number 1.
As if we've never heard from Catherine Jane before.
Catherine Jane.
Somehow she always shimmies into the show.
She always does. Catherine says...
Is she a dog trainer, by the way?
Yes.
Yes, she's the one that was at Accelerate, right?
Yes.
Do we have the same conversation every show?
Let's ask them.
She's punishing me right now.
No.
She's punishing me.
Catherine says...
Sorry, Catherine.
Hi, Sean and Laura. I have a question...
Not my fault that she uses a different name.
That's true.
Right.
It's a moniker.
Right.
Whatever. No. Moniker?
Stage
name?
Pseudonym.
Oh, pseudonym.
Right? No, not pseudonym. Wow, we'll have to edit this out because this will look bad. Go ahead.
Catherine Jane. I have a question about a lab peeing when greeted by guests.
Me too.
The lab doesn't pee when familiar people greet her, like her human parents and their 2 kids, but she'll pee when unfamiliar people greet her. She's always friendly and submissive. She'll just squat and pee. Those people familiar with the lab understand the no touch, no talk, no eye contact, but there will always be accidents out in the real world with people doing that.
Yeah.
Can this issue be addressed with e-collar? The dog knows place and will stay there when guests come over, but just directly if she pees, can it be corrected with the e-collar? Thanks a million.
Catherine Moniker Jane. Catherine, you old slippery one. I can't hold on to your name. Okay, so first of all, this is like typical submissive pee stuff, right? So your dog's comfy with, or this dog is comfortable with the people in the house, the family, right? All that stuff. So what does that tell us? It tells us that the dog has developed enough familiarity, enough security that it doesn't, that it can actually withhold doing submissive pee. But then somebody comes up that the dog hasn't had enough time to develop familiarity and trust with, and then you get submissive pee. So for me, this is a very typical, like, you need to advocate for the dog, and I know you guys are trying to do that. You're talking about like no touch, no talk, no eye contact, no stinky cheese, because it's everywhere. But you kind of have to continue with that. And then let's see, the e-collar thing, I would absolutely not. This isn't a dog who's like spitefully peeing and like looking at you and like, right? There's nothing like that. This is a dog that's displaying all very consistent signs with being unsure, being nervous around fresh people that dog doesn't have enough familiarity with, and so is not able to contain himself or herself and is peeing. So I would absolutely not use the e-collar for that. I think you'll most likely make that considerably worse. And what I would do, if the goal beyond management is to really try and nail this down, is I do food work. I do simple counter conditioning work with this dog. I don't know if they're clients of yours, but I would recommend, and the tough part with food work, if you have like heavy emotional stuff going on with the dog, is that you need enough food drive for the food drive to override the emotional place the dog's at, right? So if you're just going to give treats and the dog's like, I'm really worried about people, and you give treats and the treat value is here, but the worry value is here, you're not going to get it. But if you only were to feed that dog, say the clients were really determined to go make some stuff happen, and they would go out to like an outdoor mall or the beach or something like that, and then have the dog's food with them. It's complicated. That's why I kind of like, you know, gave you the warning ahead of time, is that it's not as easy to make happen. But if you can get the nuts and bolts of it, that the dog only eats from strangers' hands, then what it starts to do is it starts to change that perception. It's counter conditioning stuff, obviously, but it starts to change that perception of, I'm not sure about you, to like, hey, do you maybe have some food? And then that psychological, that emotional shift puts the dog into a very different gear, from wanting to be nervous and peeing to I'm interested in actually interacting with somebody. So you can try with high value, I mean super duper high value food, treat, reward, and see what you get from strangers only giving that. I would only let strangers do that. And if that doesn't work, then you need to build food drive, which is the dog only eats in those contexts, which can be a hard one, but it's a lab, right? So good chance that the lab is pretty food driven. Like if it's every other lab in the world, then that's the angle I'd go with. I wouldn't do the e-collar training, the e-collar correction. Advocate for the dog, and then do food work with the dog as much as possible. I guarantee you, you could turn this around with some hardcore, like really diligent, consistent food work, and get that dog to feel different about strangers. So that is my response. You want to add anything to that later?
Yeah, I mean, if the dog knows place, and I mean, food stuff's great. It's can take work. It can take a long
It's hard.
time.
Yeah.
So I would say there's also the thing of just getting the dog more comfortable by, whenever strangers are there, keep the dog on place. The dog doesn't need to meet people.
I think she said the dog is on place, but people will like go over to touch the dog or something like that. I think
She's saying like in public. She's saying you can't always,
Yeah,
okay,
real life
saying,
gets in the way.
Yeah, you can always real life.
Right.
But I think what my point is just that the more uncomfortable the dog, even if it's just submissive peeing, which isn't like the dog's not like terrified or uncomfortable. It's not that. It's just like, I'm not sure what to do. So the more of that, the more structure and leadership needs to be on board to counteract that. So if the dog's doing that in public, or someone comes up to it and meets it, whatever, just the owner needs to advocate for the dog more and create more of some leadership. Just maybe when they see people, puts them in a sit that's non-negotiable. Dog can't jump up out of the sit to go sniff the person, can't do anything like that.
Or even move away from the person.
The more structure there is, the more comfortable the dog's gonna be like, oh, humans got it. Okay, I can be a little bit more sure
relax
about the
into it.
situation.
No. Good suggestion. Definitely.
Cool.
Yeah, I think that's great. Nice work.
Thanks, Catherine.
Nice addition.
Okay.
Shall we?
We shall. Question number 2. This comes from Bailey Sewer.
Yep.
Sewer.
I'd go with sewer.
Sewer.
I think everybody's gonna don't say sewer.
Sewar.
I like that. That's exotic.
Nice
right?
too. Yeah. Well, they're all nice. Even if it was sewer, it's nice. What? Her name could be Sewer.
It could be. I'm gonna give her the benefit of the doubt and go with Sewar.
Everyone, when I was growing up, called me. Well, not everyone.
I was gonna say the world's against you, huh?
Like moron, Morgan.
That's not even close. Morgan, moron, and that's mean.
It's horrible.
Were you bullied?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Weren't you?
Well, here's the thing: to be bullied, they have to find you. There was me. Here, full disclosure, I'll be really brief. Me, a Vietnamese immigrant, and one other gentleman who was probably even more antisocial and dysfunctional than me, that was from America, and the three of us would hide out every nutrition and every lunch. Literally, we had this one spot where no one could find us. We talk about like Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that, which is probably why we got beat up a lot. But we'd hide out. No one could talk to us, and that was like our safe zone. Sorry, no, I'm working through it. So, but we all have our cross to bear. I don't think moron's very nice to say.
No,
you must have been tall enough to like pummel a few people that would like.
That was the problem. I was a man, so they were already calling me a man.
Well, you're a long ways from a man. Let's just move on.
We digress. All right. Bailey says. Exactly. Hi guys. I have a question about my 2-year-old pit mix Ogden. 2 weeks ago, he came home from a 4-week boot camp for his dog aggression and general anxiety, where he was prong and e-collar trained. He did very well at the facility and during his discharge lesson. The problems began once he came home. We've been walking him multiple times a day using duration commands in the house and commands during playtime like sit down, come. His problems come when we pass or see other dogs. He's becoming more reactive every day, and the methods we were prescribed aren't having the same effect at home as when he was in training, including walking in the opposite direction of the trigger with simultaneous come. Once his attention was redirected, proceeding forward. Do you have any other recommendations to prevent?
They're using e-collar too.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
To prevent explosions and to redirect his attention. It's becoming a struggle for us again. Thank you.
Okay, Bailey, Sewar.
Sewar.
I'm going to actually, because this is important. Not that all of them aren't important, but I'm going to just read from the notes here just to make sure I don't miss anything, because this is super duper important stuff. So, 4-week board and train. Okay, so the first thing I would do is I'd contact the trainers that you worked with. So I know as us being trainers, the first thing we want to know is that as soon as there's a problem, right? We don't want to know like 3 months down the line and things have kind of unraveled. We want to know the moment it happens so we can get out to you and try and help you out. So I think if you haven't done, you might have already done that, but if you haven't done that, first order of business, reach out to the trainers and let them know, hey, things were going so good, but now we're starting to.
Awesome trainers. Yeah. There's no. The thing is, this happens all the time. It happens to us. It happens to every awesome trainer in the world. Dog gets home and things start to unravel, and it may be just little things that you don't even realize, either that you're doing, that the dog's not used to, that you guys are not jiving together, and sometimes it just takes some time just back with the trainers to like reset you again.
Yeah.
You know?
She basically just read everything that I
I'm sorry.
You are too smart for your own good.
No, I was just...
So she's like, let me just riff a little bit. And I'm going to be in the other room. Anyways, I'm going to go sit on the dog bed with Manny. Okay. So first thing, contact the trainers, because I know all of us like to know as soon as there's a problem. Yeah. So because it's so much easier to shore up the problem before it like starts to totally unravel. So first order of business is that. And ask for them to come visit at your place. Right? So when there's problems that are unraveling at the home, oftentimes we never go to the actual owner's home, and it's rare that we need to, but on occasion if things are really like dicey in that specific place, because some dogs can get weird in their own home environment, own neighborhood, then we go down there and we try and, problem solve in that specific environment and context. So I would contact them and ask them if they could come out, if that's possible, and see if they can help you problem solve in that specific situation, because there could be so many things going on. Like my lovely companion over here said, this is a common problem, and it's most likely little moments and old habits getting away from you and stacking up. So typically what we see when owners are struggling, it's so... I so feel for you guys. It's so hard because it's not your vocation. It's not what you do for a living. Dog trainers, it's easy. We're so tuned into every little moment and the value of every little moment. And you guys are trying to learn a new skill set and bring all this information and all these new mechanics and lifestyle on. You're doing a really great job, but there's no doubt you're going to miss certain moments. And what happens is with certain dogs, those moments start to stack up. You miss little tiny things. You don't even know you're missing it. It's not like you're going, we'll be lazy here and let this go. Typically, it's just, Hercules, don't go under that camera. Herc.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, he just slowly walked under the tripod with Laura's very expensive camera, and we collectively held our breath. You all right?
If we screamed at him, he probably would have panicked and said the whole thing over.
It was just, we just kind of like just just kind of white knuckled through that. Phew. Okay, so once again, it's not about being lazy, and it's not about usually making decisions like, oh, we're not going to really tackle that stuff because it's too much of a pain in the butt. It's more about not noticing. It's more about just because it's a brand new skill set, and it's something that you haven't spent your life focused on doing like dog trainers have. So what we see over and over and over again, when we did our last sorry, microphone, when we did our last home visit for Stanley, Manly Stanley, right? They were doing so good, but they're having a few reactivity issues, and then there was one spot at the park where she was worried to go on her own. Took her out there, and even though she was the owner was doing so good, there was a handful of moments. The thresholds weren't getting done exactly right.
Just little stuff.
Heel position was getting pushed just a little bit. The corrections were coming a little bit late and a little bit low, and what was happening was all of those were stacking up, which what happens is it's not just like, oh, I can get away with this, but it also creates more arousal in the dog. Yes, the dog starts to realize I can get away with stuff, but they also, all of those moments of pushing boundaries, Manny, stop snoring, they start to create more arousal, and the arousal works against you in such a big fashion when you're dealing with dog reactivity or reactivity of any sort. So that's why we're always looking for all these small moments to cap them, bring the state of mind down, keep the dog relaxed and chilled and even keeled, so when you see a dog, you got a real fighting chance. So like Laura said, most likely it's a bunch of small moments or old habits that are happening, coming back. Could be things in the hood. A lot of dogs get grudgy in their own neighborhood. They get territorial, but they also get grudgy with certain dogs in their neighborhood that they've walked by like 1,000 times, and those dogs, you know, have barked at them in a snotty fashion behind a fence, and they're like, I'll get you if it's the last thing I do. There's so much of that. Dogs are just super savvy and super smart about like specific dogs and getting pissed off at them. So so that's definitely something to be thinking about, that it's most likely a small thing or old habits getting in the way. And then, like I said, as far as like what these little things could be, timing, just all you have to be is a little late on stuff, and things start to unravel. It doesn't have to be major stuff, which is why if you can get the trainers out there to help you, it might be just like, oh yeah, that's a moment you need to correct right there, rather than you might be going, I can't tell, the dog seems like he's okay, maybe I don't need to go after that moment right now, and that just lifted up the dog, and now you're in trouble when you pass the next dog. So timing, once again, as a dog trainer thing, is easy for us, hard for people that are taking on a new skill set. Too little space. You might not be using enough space initially in your neighborhood to be able to keep the arousal levels at a manageable place, the threshold at a manageable place, to where the dog isn't at such a high level so quick that you're getting behind him emotionally and struggling. And then not getting the e-collar levels right and quickly enough, which, you know, I know you're doing like recall, like kind of step back recalls when you see dogs. So even those levels need to be right. Even if you're not like doing correcting stuff, those levels need to be right, and they need to be on the money speed wise. Like, boom, dog sees the other dog, you got enough space, you start to see arousal or change in demeanor, dog focuses. I think you guys say calm on your button and get the dog back, but you got to make sure that level's high enough that your dog cares but isn't freaked out and responds to you immediately. So there's all these little tiny things that can be seeming like, hey, we're doing a pretty good job, but they could all maybe just be a little off and all compromising your results. So and then the other stuff I wrote down would be the other moments, you know, the big moments and relationship stuff in the house. This is one that I think a lot of people miss. And I know you guys are most likely, because I know the trainers you're using, I know you're most likely doing a more comprehensive program. You're not just doing the walk, but this is something we talk about all the time. And I know when you're talking to clients on the phone or in emails, or when Brittany's talking on the phone, a big part of what you're saying is like, the walk doesn't live in a vacuum. It's not just about that moment. It's about, how does your dog perceive and interact with you throughout the house? Does he have too much freedom? Is he feeling entitled? Is he feeling pushy? Is he getting away with stuff in the house that's leading him to feel like I can get away with stuff there, and maybe you guys don't need to be listened to as much as you think you do? You know, those kind of conversations can be really powerful, and once again, they're usually pretty teeny tiny ones. So and then your final question is what would we do differently? And I'm a little reluctant to even get into this because you're working with great guys, and I would rather you contact them and do because you're working a program with them. So I'd rather you guys do that, get them out there, have them walk you through it. The only thing I'd say is that the only difference we do is we tend to do less of the recall back, and we tend to do more of correcting for focus, alerting on dogs. So our program's a little bit different with reactivity stuff, whereas the dog sees, if we have a heavy reactive dog sees the other dog, forehead wrinkles, ears come up, no, we correct and redirect the attention away from the dog and keep walking while using space. So that's the only difference, rather than recalling them away. Not that we wouldn't at times recall a dog away, but primarily we correct by saying no for untoward focus on the other dogs. So some little different shifts there, but that's really besides the point. Contact those guys, talk to them. They're awesome trainers, awesome dudes, and I'm sure they want you guys to be really successful. So reach out to them, tell them you're struggling, get them out to your place, and see if they can problem solve with you, and I'm sure you guys can get it sorted out. But just, let me close it. Home stuff, always the hardest. It's always the hardest, and one of the things I try and get across in like blog posts and everywhere else is that this stuff, because your dog has so much experience misbehaving there, it's going to take time to recalibrate and reprogram the way he feels at your house and in your neighborhood. You're going to have to scratch and claw and grab for every little moment and every little victory to turn that stuff around. So be prepared for a bit of a battle. Even though he did really good with the trainers, back at home, it's always the harder place. So, cool?
Okay, this question.
How you doing, by the way?
I'm good.
You good? Great.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just checking in with you.
He's always checking in.
I'm just, like to make sure you're good. I'm worried about that Pantene fallout. It's gonna be okay.
It's like 8 years ago.
Pantene. Every time you walk down the aisle and you see a Pantene bottle, you're like, tears. Just.
No, definitely not. Tears of joy. Okay. Question number 3. This is from Aaron Satchel.
Yes.
Aaron says, I have a 2-year-old border collie, Stella, that we rescued a little over a year ago. About 2 months ago, she started chasing the reflected light that passing cars throw on our ceiling. We live right next to a highway. For a short while, tightly closing the curtains so no light came through helped, but now it's constant staring of her at the ceiling and if there's any light jumping at it. She'll stop and lie down on her bed when told, but playing with her is impossible. She doesn't do it outside. She completely ignores the cars in favor of hurting the chickens or at other people's houses. She obeys place commands, but continuously focuses on the ceiling. What in the world can I do to correct this?
Blindfold. It's the only answer. Blindfold, earplugs. Well, I guess you don't need earplugs for the light show. Okay, Aaron, I'm stalling because this is a hard question. It really is a hard question. And as I was going through it and writing up some notes, I'm like, man, that's just, without being hands-on with the dog, it's such a hard one for me to formulate. So I'm going to do my best to try and help you out with this. First of all, you got a border collie. Okay, border collies are like some of the, if not the smartest dogs around. They're also drivey and they're also built to work. High energy, like all the stuff, they got it all. And so they're built to work and do stuff and have tasks to do. And if they don't, they're going to find ways to try and pacify themselves. And they're also prone to compulsive behaviors and things like that, right? Because they've got so much head stuff going on, just like a lot of like super creative, smart, amazing people out there. They also tend to have corresponding like stuff that makes them challenge in other capacities. So I think we tend to see that stuff with border collies, aussies, things like that. These really smart working dogs where they can be compromised a bit up there and be neurotic and be a little OCD'd out. So that's what you've got. Now, I don't know what you're doing with the dog. I don't know what kind of activities you're doing. I don't know how much you're working the dog. I don't know how much you're applying the brain. I don't know any of that. We don't have any details on that stuff. But I would be doing, first of all, if you haven't already, I'd get on like some border collie like forums, and I would ask if anybody else has had this problem, for one. But two, I'd ask like, what awesome activities have they found that you can do inside the house to get your border collie to be applying its brain more, right? So whether it's doing scent work around the house, like while you're doing other work, you can like hide stuff around the house and have the dog working and doing some scent work and things like that. I think that would be a great thing to just tap into some other resources and see what they have. They might have some creative ideas with that. I would absolutely be doing a full course, a full course of training. I would do e-collar work. And not just because that's like our program, but like if you sent that dog to us, first thing we would do a full program of e-collar work. We'd start to do lots of duration work, not like, because you mentioned she'll go and lay down at her place at like people's houses and stuff like that, but still be focused on the ceiling. It's a different thing between like the dog will do this and the dog will do this when I ask it to do it and not move. So non-negotiable commands, creating a lot of heavy structure, heavy leadership. So you can make training like the work for the dog too, right? So you can find some activities for the dog to do, but then you can also bust the dogs behind training wise and ask your border collie to do some really hard work inside the house, stuff that's challenging. Now, you can also use the e-collar to start correcting for focus and this kind of OCD stuff. Truth be told, we've had a lot of OCD style dogs come in with different behaviors and weird issues. And when we do our full program, not just address like stop looking at the lights, when we do a comprehensive program of everything, if you're a fan of ours and have watched our stuff, if you get what the comprehensive program is and like it's pretty much all out there, we get different state of mind stuff going on with the dogs. The OCD stuff almost always disappears. So that'd be my heavy duty recommendation to you, is that like get a full training thing on board, make time for it. You got yourself one of those dogs that needs that. You don't have like a couch potato dog that you can kind of just chill with and have them be okay. It's going to make your life miserable, and your dog will be miserable too. So they really need to work and do stuff. So activities in the house, get creative, get on some boards, find out about that. If you've got anywhere where you can do some like sheep herding, man, that's awesome. That's a great way for them to have an outlet. E-collar training around the house, bust the butt around, like come down, place, put them in tough spots, lots of distraction work, lots of pressure. Throw a ball if the dog likes ball while they're in place. Get them to really be able to deal with all these kind of different things they don't want to deal with, and then any kind of looking up at the ceiling for the light fixation payoff, I'd be correcting for that and see what you get with that. That's my best. That's my best, because I don't think we've ever had a dog come in with that exact issue.
But we've had dogs come in with major stuff about like laser pen, light stuff, all that stuff. So, and we do our program and the dog just seems to kind of forget about it, just because the more structure on board, the more the dog can relax and doesn't need that obsessive stuff as self-soother.
And it gives the brain something else to do, right? So if you're this really bright girl and I just stick you in a cubicle, in an insurance office, you're going to lose your mind, because there's nothing for you to do to stimulate your mind, because you need more stuff. And the same thing goes with a lot of these dogs. A lot of dogs don't need all this, but like if you get a drivey, smart, wanting to work border collie, you got to put him to work, or you guys are in for a miserable ride. So that's my recommendation. Tough question. My last final words were activity, challenge, and training. And work that brain. Cool.
All right. Ready?
I'm always ready.
Born ready?
Born ready.
Question number 4. This is from Susan Savory.
Savory. I like savory.
Hi, Sean and Laura. My corgi, the great herder, loves to chase and react to moving things, cars, joggers, bikers, etc. What approach should I take when we are walking along and one of those triggers go by? That is, what should it look like? I find myself stopping in anticipation, but I don't think that's the right approach as she gets wound up. We use e-collar.
We use e-collar. Good for you, Susan. Okay, Susan. So this is actually, luckily, not your secret surprise question. You're like, oh God! No, this is actually a pretty easy one to solve. So you're already on e-collar. So I would, if you're not like doing an immaculate heel with this dog, I would do an immaculate heel, and that means that dog's head is parallel with your hip. The bulk of the head, not the nose. The nose can be a teeny bit past your leg. The bulk of the cranium is parallel with your hip, and it doesn't move from there. Doesn't drag back. Doesn't move forward. Doesn't go to left. Doesn't go to the right. Any deviation from that needs to be corrected firmly. Right. That's your first, like, everybody. Excuse me. Everybody gets caught up with like. Annie, everybody gets caught up with like, I got to address the specific problem, but the specific problem is usually symptomatic. It's the outcome of all these other little moments, right? So I know you've already got the e-collar on and you're probably doing a heel, but I bet if I was there following you, shadowing you, I bet I would see some stuff that would need some tune-up. So the immaculate heel is different from like a non-pulling dog. It's different from like a dog who's like doing pretty good. We're talking about a dog who's lunging after other moving objects. So that dog needs lockdown heel. Don't you dare move. If you do, I'm going to repeat the heel command and pop with a quick tap on the button, and make sure that tap gets your dog's attention to where your dog goes, holy mackerel, let me put myself back into position, right? And if you're not getting like pretty crisp responses to get back into position, your levels are too low. So let's get those levels up to where your dog actually takes you serious, and it also will start to get your dog to prioritize a little bit more of the walk, listening to you rather than just being like, what's cooking out here, I'm going to get into trouble. So that's the first part, right? Immaculate heel with the e-collar, higher level corrections for any deviation. And then what we want to shoot for or address is that once you're walking, dog's in a great heel, whatever the object is, a bike, skateboard, jogger, whatever, as soon as you see your dog go from relax like this to that first second, ears come up. Corgi, hopefully you can see all that, right? Ears come up. I don't know if you'll see a forehead wrinkle or not, but you're going to see this, right? Yeah. As soon as you see that, don't wait. Don't go, I hope she doesn't explode. I hope I've got a good enough grip. At that moment that you see the focus change from I'm happily walking with you in a nice, easy mode to I'm alert at something else, you say no and simultaneously correct with the e-collar, and you do so at a level that's nice and firm. And you might be surprised what level you need to be firm enough to get your dog to turn that focus away, right? So I'm the dog walking along, what's that? No, pop, and I should move back like this. And if you get this, like the attention on the I'm trying to like role play this. The attention on the dog. No, dog turns away and then goes right back. You know that your level's probably too low, and so then bump up the next correction. Just repeat no, no, until your dog gives you right. Because a lot of times dogs, especially if they've been getting that like payoff for a long time, they've been getting the like juice that comes from it. They'll go back to it, go back to it, go back to it until you find a right level, and then they go. And typically they'll go like this. They'll look up at you and go, hey, what's up? You're like, yeah, stop doing that. So it's a really easy fix. I would be willing to bet a lot of old-fashioned donuts that if you brought that dog here and I created an immaculate heel with valuable corrections for breaking that heel position and really patterned that away from any targets, got that great, and then went around targets and at a decent space to start off so you don't blow your mind or your dog's mind, and as soon as you get any alert change from your languid, fluid, relaxed, hopefully those are the right words, position of your dog or demeanor to alert, no, and pop simultaneously at a nice high level. Get the whole thing is early and firm. Early and firm. You do that and you beat the dog emotionally, right? We call it capping. Your dog sees, like your dog's cruising with you. Here's explosion point. Dog sees the other whatever it is. It starts moving. You see it at the same time. You go, no, pop, and bring the dog back down. That's the answer. So you just need to go knock that out, and I don't want to hear from you until you've knocked it out, until it's all perfect again. I'm getting tough here. Tough love. Love. But go rock that and let us know how that comes out. I think you'll be surprised if you make levels valuable for your dog. I think you'll be very surprised what kind of responses you get, because we get lungers. Every other dog we get here is a lunger of some sort at other dogs, bikes, people.
Things moving, all that stuff.
And they stop as soon as the e-collar heel structured walk, high accountability goes into place. It just goes away. Right? Thanks.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Have
We're
fun.
done.
Okay.
Ready?
Question number 5. This comes from Artem.
Yep.
Our buddy,
Our old
Artem
buddy in Ukraine.
Akhmetsafin. Says, hello, Sean and Laura. How are you guys? Last Q&A with all the new stuff looks good. Great.
We haven't heard from Artem in a while.
I know. Yeah. He's learning.
He's off being a rock star in
he
Ukraine. He's like, I don't need you guys anymore.
Doesn't need us at all.
I'm just rocking.
Last Q&A series with all the new stuff looks highly awesome. My question is about a blind pitbull that I'm working with now. So he's highly aroused guy, zero impulse control, pushy, excited, and dog aggressive. He's had a lot of bad experience with other dogs in the past.
Yeah.
I'm doing all the foundation stuff with prong and e-collar, and I used Pet Convincer to interrupt his state of mind around my dogs. It helped a lot. So with dogs, he's much better now, but in general, still too... he's too tense, he's too excited, and lots of problems with self-control and handling his emotions. He also doesn't see me, my body language. He doesn't see thresholds, crate doors, placemats. How can I do all these important things because he doesn't see where the placemat ends or thresholds are? I did pressure and release work and leash, so he's much more leash-oriented now, but I still struggle. He's very, very unstable emotionally, especially when it comes to going outside. He becomes aroused 1 second. In 1 second, I'm correcting him firmly for that, but still nothing. Also, I started doing duration downstays outside the house in the yard, like opposite from his intentions. He wants to get crazy. I'm asking him to do nothing but be in a downstay. Any other suggestions from you guys would be great. Thank you.
That's like a 4,000 different questions. That's a tough one.
It's Artem. It's Artem's style.
Artem's style. He gets into the nitty gritty. That's why he's rock starring it up in Ukraine for one.
Yeah, the main question is just that he's doing,
Well, how do you get successful? How can you be successful with a super aroused, revved up blind pitty,
see.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
So we've actually had a dog that sounds like eerily similar. No dog aggression, if I'm not mistaken.
What sweet dog?
That white pitty
Yeah,
that
yeah.
came, I can't remember the client's name, but we had the same thing. And what it feels like is because the dog's blind, all the other senses are overloaded.
Yeah.
All the other senses are just like on extreme, just turned up. So we used e-collar. I think Artem's using e-collar.
Yep.
So using e-collar, but it didn't make it easy. It helped. We were using prong at first, and it was just a disaster on the walk. So we started using e-collar heel, and that definitely helped. But of course, like, the dog can't see exactly where position is, like you're saying. So I wrote a few notes here to hopefully help you out. Some stuff that you might be able to tweak and adjust that might make it better for you. But we don't have a ton of experience with this. We've only had one client like that, so I'm kind of flying on intuition here.
Yeah.
So first thing I said is tough case, because it really is a tough case with all those different things that you put on there and those arousal issues. Boy, man, it's tough even with the dog that can see. So one of the things I was thinking is that if you're doing e-collar, then if there's a lot of arousal on the walks, then if you saw my video where I was working with Ziggy, the big giant monster Saint Bernard, when he was super aroused, what I did was just short recalls, just like a 4-foot, I mean, you can use a 6-foot, I think I was using a 4-foot leash, and just recalls back to me, right? So dog can't see you, but the dog can hear you, right? So dog's getting aroused, you stop, let the dog move out in front of you, on the button, press and hold unless you're at a corrective phase. But you'll probably get more value out of lower level press and hold pressure, which is really like pressure release stuff from an e-collar. And then I would do a bunch of those. So like come, guide the dog in, dog doesn't have to be perfect, and then off the button as soon as the dog's committed, and then if the dog blows by you, switch, and I'd go back and forth. Literally, just like I did with Ziggy. If you watch that video, Ziggy goes from being crazy to a bunch of recalls, and all of a sudden he's like, slower and more relaxed and more calm, and he's more focused and tuned in. Of course, he's got vision, so he can look at me, but mainly what I got out of it was a mindset change, which is really valuable. So that's something I would think about when you're on your walks, instead of getting like really anal about like we're just going to make him heel. If he's too aroused, go for those recalls. And then what else did I put down? So seeing as you can't use visible visible challenges, you know, like thresholds and body position challenges and like markers, you know, to say like, hey, you got to be in this position, or thresholds, you got to be here, or crate, you can't come jamming out of this thing. What I would do is you're going to have to lean more on some verbal stuff. So I'd create more verbal communication cues, right? So I'd get a really good wait. And instead of like a stay, but a wait command, you know, something you could use that like you go to a, you know, you're at the crate, and open the crate door, wait, e-collar reinforced, make sure you've taught the dog what it means, wait at thresholds, rather than putting the dog in sit, but getting, it's a little more impulse control rich than putting a dog into a sit. So dog like is at the threshold, can't see it, but he probably smells that something's changing and hears that something's changing. I'd get on the button if I need to, create a wait command, wait, dog slows down, still getting the same value. He's not getting the visual of it, like, oh, I've got to stop right here. So you'll have to kind of get creative with these verbal cues to try and be able to find a bridge to this stuff, right? So I would use verbal, I'd get a really strong wait. What else do I have for you? I'd go to a raised place command, so that way you don't have to worry about, you know, those Kuranda beds. They're like this big. I think Kuranda's the name or the maker, and they got 4 posts and canvas in between. I know you know what I'm talking about.
Petcott.
Petcott, yeah, and from the Petcott Center in Florida, right? Anyways, so the cool thing about that is that it's really easy for your dog to make a distinction about being on place or being off a place. A mat for a blind dog is going to be way harder, but a Petcott, super easy, right? Boom, I'm stepping up, I'm on. If I try and step off, whoa, clear distinction, a lot of space. So I would go to a place command that's a Petcott straight away. I think that's going to really help you out a lot. What else? Continued duration work like you're doing around triggers. I think you said he was doing stuff like the dog just wants to be crazy and I want him to be relaxed or something like that. I would do like bring a Petcott out if you can, put him in place in a yard, let him hang out while things are going on around him and teach a ton of impulse control. If you're in a spot where you've just been walking him, then no Petcott, just put him in a downstay and he's got to hang and do a lot of duration work around things that are hard for him. So those are a few things. Another thing that I might do, seeing is like, creating a heel command can be hard because the dog doesn't have a visual cue to be able to, you know, typically dogs look at your leg and they know, okay, this is where I gotta be, this is where I gotta be, so he can't do that. So something you could do, I was just thinking, is you could get a little fancy and you could create slow or speed up. I mean, you can say it in Russian, whatever you want, or you can throw a curveball at the dog and say it in English, but give the dog like a slow down or speed up, and then a marker for like good, yes, completion, you know, which tells the dog he's right on. So we're walking, right? And the dog starts to move out a little bit in front, slow, and then guide the dog back with the leash. As soon as the dog's there, good, right? And so you can do that, you know, like I said, I'm making this up as I go.
Or even just heel. Heel is the position. So out of it.
Yeah, but my thing is that if you say heel, he doesn't have a reference point of like, okay, he doesn't know maybe if he's even in front of you or not. But so that's why I was trying to get creative with it. I was like, okay, say the dog's in front of you but doesn't know it. You can say slow down, and the dog slows down. As soon as he's in the right position, you're off the button.
And you do that by guiding with leash pressure to start to teach that.
Sure.
Down.
Just like an e-collar heel, but I would say slow down, right? So pairing a word with it, off the button when the dog's in position, mark it with good or yes or whatever you want to say, wunderbar or you know, or heel if you want to, like, you know, use the heel word and like the dog goes, okay, heel means I'm in the right position. But if you're using cues for good, yes, completion of exercise elsewhere, I'd use the same cue to give consistency to that. And then you could also use a speed up command, right? Dog's dragging, speed up, and then on the button, little guidance with the leash, dog's in position, off the button, good, right? So that's something that, you know, just kind of off the top of my head, I was thinking about to try and create. I mean, it's going to be more complicated because the dog's blind, but you could have some fun with this and you could find some workarounds. Typically, I like to use less verbal commands, but with a guy like this, because you kind of need to, I would go for more verbal commands and see if you can't come up with a whole line of communication, that can really help the dog figure things out. And the owner eventually, will have to, you know, he'll have to stay on top of the dog.
Yeah.
He's probably not going to be one of those that can just autopilot heel. Keeping a really short leash, so the dog, like that could also be like, is it tactile? You know, like feeling, right? So instead of a looser leash, a snugger leash, but not with tension, but just the slightest hint of like this as your arm's moving with that leash and prong. So the dog has kind of a sensory point of where heel position is, right? If he starts to feel more tension, then you could actually condition him like, you're too far out of position because you're feeling tension. So I noticed that when we have our dogs on short leash and prong, they tend to have an easier time holding that position. And then if we get, you know, if I put like a martingale on them or something like that and loosen up the leash, they just tend to maneuver a little bit more. Now, it's not saying that they don't know the position. They do know the position. I just think it makes it easier for them with the short leash. It's just more of a reminder, like, because they feel your arm moving. It's just a reminder of like, hey, this is where we need you. So those are some suggestions. You got any?
No, that's all great stuff.
Yeah,
I mean,
you like it?
Yep. It's
All
just a matter of, you know, figuring out what works for. I mean, all the same program, you know, that whole, our program and the program you've been using on dogs is going to work. It's just a matter of how to break through to the dog who can't see.
Yeah, and probably has a ton of arousal issues because all of his other senses are like, what? Just turned up.
Yeah.
Cool?
Cool.
Let us know how it goes, man. Hopefully
Yeah.
some of those, at least a few of those will hopefully be helpful for you.
Yep. Cool. Uh-oh.
Boy, those were good. Might be my favorite. Try. Really inappropriate. This, in this bag, might be my favorite treat of all. I don't know if you can see it. This isn't quite a girl bite yet.
No, not quite yet.
No. Old-fashioned glazed donut, Starbucks. I'm telling you, if anybody has any doubts about magic existing in the world, it's in that bag.
It's that one. Okay.
You're not impressed. Anyways, continue on.
Okay, so this is kind of a special thing. We have question number 6. It's Lori Mitchell.
Hey, Laura.
Lori says, hi there, I don't even know how to start. I have a Shar-Pei named Benson. Devore found him in May, emaciated, all this stuff.
Yeah, you may have to kind of abbreviate through that. It's a long, long message.
Basically, they got him. He was a really, he had a
Almost
rough
feral.
start.
Yeah. I think they had to capture him, and
yeah.
it took forever to capture him.
Happy to say he's now domesticated, one of the sweetest, loving dogs she knows.
Nice work.
However, now when it comes to human, he has a lot of fear. At this point, still doesn't allow strangers to stand up while in my home. I constantly socialize him with humans, yet the fear hasn't seemed to lessen when they stand up. He loves dogs, however. It was obvious he doesn't know how to produce and properly introduce himself or have appropriate behavior. So a couple months ago, she brought in a bait dog, I guess an ex-bait dog named Miss Blue.
Just to clarify, not to fight with her dog. She didn't bring,
dog.
like, all right, like, let's see what you got. She brought it. She rescued a bait dog.
Yeah, so she's also extremely fear-based. I guess with all that babble, my main concern is to make sure that I'm not doing them a disservice, as I'm under the impression that they need more time, and who are us humans to put a time limit on them? Should I send Benson off to training? He's a big escape artist. Basically, she's just trying to do right for 2 of the most fear-based dogs I've ever been around. Miss Blue is not my forever dog, and once she's ready to place, her and Benson will forever be mine. I've never met a dog like him.
Nice. So I think the basic upshot, she's trying to figure out what's the best approach to try and lessen some of this human fearfulness that the one Benson, I think, that she's going to hold on to. And then of course she's got the fearful one, which is the bait dog, Blue, and then also wondering, is it worth it to try and send the dog away? The dog's been an escape artist. I know that's kind of a fear as well, and all that stuff. But
well,
that said,
all that said, we have a very special guest answering you.
Calling Tyler Muto.
Tyler Muto.
Calling Tyler Muto.
Come in,
Tyler Muto. Tyler from Canine Connection in Buffalo, New York, was gracious enough to answer this question for you. If you guys don't know Tyler, Tyler's a good friend of ours. and they do excellent work, both training and rehabbing serious cases out there. They do a lot of socialization work with hard to socialize dogs, straight up rehab work, the whole schmeal. And so if you're in that area and you need help, look these gents up. We're going to turn this one over to Tyler and let him and his beard take it away.
Hey guys, this is Tyler Muto from Canine Connection out in Buffalo, New York, just helping out with some question and answer for Sean and Laura over at The Good Dog. And we've got the question here that came in about the two rescue dogs. One's going to be the permanent dog, one's going to be the foster. Both have pretty severe fear issues. There's a few key things going on here that we want to touch on. So we've got Benson, I believe his name is, and his pretty significant fear towards humans in the house, particularly when they're standing up. So that's one issue we want to address. And then we also want to address handling both dogs in the house. They're not ready to meet yet or to be around each other. And so the question of how long do we need to wait, and is it fair to the dogs to push them through that process? So we're going to start with the first point here with Benson and his fear behavior towards humans. There's a few things we want to keep in mind whenever we're dealing with this kind of thing. First and foremost, we want to make sure that we're starting Benson on some kind of basic training program. Preferably, a good solid training program with balanced training methods so that we can have really reliable response to commands. Most importantly, I'd make sure he has a really good place command. If you guys follow Sean, you should be familiar with what a place command is, so I won't go into too much detail about that. And maybe a downstay as well, and certainly a good recall won't hurt, even for in the house, just to make sure if he's getting up and about and around people that we can call him away from those scenarios. So the first thing I would start with doing is presuming that we've got him going with that place command, he's capable of doing it well. Figuring out what is his threshold as far as people being around him in the home. So we know he's okay if they're sitting down, but he has issues if they're standing. And then with them standing, what's the proximity that becomes an issue? Is it them standing anywhere in the house, or only within the same room, or only within 5 feet? So we want to start to figure out where our threshold points are, and that gives us a frame of reference. So that we can start easy, essentially. We want to start out having him doing a place command, so the options are sort of removed. He knows exactly what his expectations are. He can relax without having to worry about what he may or may not have to do regarding this person. We've covered that for him. We've told him exactly what he needs to do, which is simply keep his body in this one spot. And once he's doing that, we can then have people in the house starting outside of his threshold zone, so starting where it's relatively easy for him. People can be up and moving around where it's not a stressful scenario. And as he gains comfort, we can slowly have them getting closer or more, pushing that threshold zone so it becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. So that's one thing that we want to do is again, really solidify basic obedience, utilize that basic obedience around the problem, in this case, people standing up and moving around the house, to make sure that Benson is not given the freedom to have to make his own choices in those scenarios, because we already know that either A, he doesn't know what choices to make, and that's causing him a pretty decent amount of stress and anxiety, or B, he's making really poor choices, and so we don't want to give him the opportunity to make poor choices. By having him do a place command, we're asking him to do something relatively simple. It's also something that we can reward when he does well. And that brings up the second part of this picture, which is utilizing rewards, A, for good behavior, but B, to desensitize and counter condition him to the presence of people moving around in the house. Me personally, I like as much as possible to have dogs working for their meals and their regular kibble. It's relatively straightforward to have them do that. But sometimes in these types of scenarios, we do need more valuable types of rewards, because it is a high stress scenario, and we want to make sure that the reward is enough to override that stress and to motivate him. So it may need to be cheese, it may need to be chicken, peanut butter, might just be a tasty store-bought treat. I'm a big fan of freeze-dried liver is a good treat for dogs. They tend to like it as well. So those types of things can tend to work really well. So in addition to just rewarding him for doing a good job on place command, there's some other things that we can do. What I find is particularly important, often with dogs who have issues with people standing up, is it's the actual act of standing up that becomes a trigger, meaning the person is sitting down, and the moment they begin to move from a sitting position to a standing position, that's where the dog gets tense or lunges or growls or just gets fearful, but that tends to be the trigger. So what we want to do is drill that little thing just a little bit and utilize food to counter condition that, meaning he has a negative association to that behavior of standing up, and we want to switch that over to a positive association. So what I like to do is this. You're going to have your guests over, you're going to have them sitting down, you are going to be also sitting down, and Benson's going to be in his place command somewhere near you, not near them. So preferably they're across a room to start this exercise. And what we want to do is basically count to 3. I like to count to 3 because that way everybody's ready. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, and then on the next beat, on the 4 essentially, your guests are going to stand up. At the exact same time that they do that, what you're going to do is say yes and deliver a piece of food or treat to Benson. So 1, 2, 3, they stand, you say yes and deliver the food. You want to be doing this at the same time, because you want to catch him and deliver that food before he has an opportunity to react to them standing. So it's really important that we do this at the exact same time, and that's why counting to 3 is so valuable. So 1, 2, 3, they stand, yes, you deliver food. The other important factor here is you want to make sure that it is you delivering the food and not your guests. So until he's totally comfortable with people in the house, I don't personally advocate having people give him a lot of treats. And the reason why is we don't want him learning to focus on those people or having any reason to stare at them and focus on them, because it's only a matter of time before they get up or do another movement that makes him uncomfortable. So we really want him learning to ignore those people and essentially have them be no more important to him than a coffee table sitting in the middle of the room. So all the good stuff comes from you, and that way his focus is staying on you the whole time. The more he's focused on you, the less he's going to be worried about what they are doing. So just to recap that, you're going to make sure you've got some good obedience training going, particularly a good place command. You're going to utilize that place command when there's people in your house and make sure that he stays put and he can just chill out and become a passive observer of what's going on. And he may still be really nervous at first, but it's going to take time and repetition before he settles in. The other thing that'll help him settle in is to make sure you are rewarding him when he's doing well, with of course praise, but also food tends to be very effective for helping a dog feel better. Makes them happy, essentially. And then also you're going to do a counter conditioning exercise with the trigger of people moving from a sitting position to a standing position if that is something that tends to trigger a response from him. And you're going to count to 3, and at the same time your guests are going to stand while you deliver a reward to Benson before he has time to react. If when you're doing that he reacts anyway, then the people are too close. Try having them move further away, or try having them stand up in a slower fashion or in a less abrupt fashion. If he's doing well, have them stand up in a quicker fashion, or maybe use their arms as they stand up so it's a bigger gesture. You really want to work towards really solidifying him and getting him comfortable with all kinds of weird stuff. So those are the 2 things that I would do as far as his behavior with people. The last thing I want to note as far as that is concerned is many feral dogs always have a bit of apprehension towards new people throughout their entire lives. And so there are sometimes limits to how far we can get with this kind of behavior. So we just want to make sure that he's meeting his potential. We want to make sure he's not behaving aggressively towards new people. But if he's a little bit standoffish towards new people, or he doesn't want new people approaching him or petting him, that's not necessarily a major concern and may or may not be something that can be changed in the long run. And it sounds like you're pretty committed to this dog already, so I don't think that's an overall thing that you're going to be upset if you have to sort of take it slow with new people. Now, with the new dog coming into the house, and I didn't write down her name, I apologize, I forgot her name. But foster dog, we'll call her. So she's got fear issues too. Sounds like she's not doing too well as far as his presence goes. She kind of wants to be left alone, and that's fine. And so, again, same thing applies. Make sure both dogs are getting training. Make sure both dogs are able to utilize self-control and obedience. And if you wanted to work on anything, you can have them just learning to exist in a room together where they're both doing a place command or a downstay. So again, we're taking away the options from them, and we're just saying, this is all I need you to do right now in this moment. This is it. And if they're both separated and they're both in a place command, they're not fighting, they're not lunging at each other, none of that stuff can happen. If you're not 100% confident in their obedience and you really want to have some safety backups, then you can back tie them to something. So you can, tie one of them to a railing or a piece of furniture, or some people even put little anchors into their baseboards or walls into a stud that you can tie a leash to. And that way, if the dogs do break position, they can't get to each other. So that is one thing that you can do to help them just get more comfortable with each other's existence. The other thing that I would do is take them for walks together, and that may require a second person initially, and you may need to start far apart if she's really uncomfortable. You can even start on opposite sides of a road, but the idea is you're going to start walking, and as you're walking, slowly merge closer together. And it may take, over the course of a half-hour walk, it may take several walks before they're able to walk side by side. But walking side by side is a great way for them to get comfortable together in just a less confrontational way. So they're not going nose to nose. They're both traveling in the same direction with the same people as a group. And so it's definitely a good bonding experience for dogs to go for walks together. And that's one of the most consistent ways that we introduce two dogs. Now, the big picture is, we do always want to bear in mind that you're not planning on keeping her. She's a foster dog. Your goal is to find her own home. And so if things are really dicey, or if it's looking like this might be a risky scenario, then I would say keep them separate. It's really not worth the risk of a fight or one of them getting injured, especially if she's not going to be your permanent dog. So if there is like real aggression going on, or things look like they could be dangerous, then I say play it safe, unless you think it's going to be a really, really long-term foster. But otherwise, why put either one of them through that stress, and why put yourself through that stress? Because dealing with two dogs fighting in the same home can be quite challenging. I would definitely advocate the assistance of a professional for that kind of thing, and it can take a long time and a lot of energy. So that's something that always needs to be considered. And like I said, given the fact that she may not be permanent, you definitely want to weigh that as you're thinking about how you want to handle all this. But if it's just a matter of her being fearful and needing some space from him, then that's definitely something you can achieve by utilizing, again, that strong obedience. So if she needs space from him and he's got a solid place command, then that gives you an opportunity to bring her into the environment where she sees that he's under control and she doesn't need to necessarily worry about what he's doing. So I hope that helps. I think I answered most of the questions that were in that email or message, and I wish you the best of luck with both those dogs. Thanks.
Girl bite.
Keep going. All right. Question number 7. This is from Lisa Lenny. Lisa says, or Lacey. Lisa says, "Hi, Sean and Laura. When do you know when to get a new pinch collar for your dog? Recently, I started seeing red marks on her neck from the pinch. Is that normal?" And then her second question is, "What's the highest level that you've used on the e-collar for the dog?"
Lisa.
No
Okay.
freebies, Lisa.
Yeah, come on, we're checking here.
One.
Okay, so it's not normal to have marks on the dog's neck. If you haven't had them in the past, it sounds like you've been using a prong for a long time. So if you've had that prong on your dog in the past and you've never had marks before, something's changed. So either something's going on with the prong, and that, like, maybe the stainless coating, if you can call it like that, has wearing off, and like maybe you're getting like rusty stuff or something going on. Or what was I going to say? Or if maybe you've been in some situations lately where your dog was pulling harder than usual and you hadn't even thought about it. Maybe you had some guests over or you're on a walk and like your dog saw its best friend and like was really pulling, and maybe that caused a little bit of extra, marking, something like that. But if you haven't had it before and your dog hasn't had a sensitivity to the prong collar, then something's changed. So either the dog had more pressure on it than usual, or something wacky's going on with your prong collar. And the cool thing is they're not that expensive. So I would take a look at the prong if you had it for a long time, and if it's not a Herm Springer, I cut that baby loose.
Yeah.
And even if it is a Herm Springer, then what, they're 25, 30 bucks, something like that. I'd get a new one, and they can wear, like the stainless can wear off. We'll find dogs will have like gray kind of a staining around the neck and stuff like that. Like Mr. Man. So that's possible. I would most likely, if you haven't been doing like major pressure restraining your dog back, I'd probably grab another prong and see what's going on. And then the weirdest part of this is that your dog could, like, maybe at the outside be developing like some allergy to stainless steel, and like, I know it sounds weird to that it didn't exist prior, but who knows? Like all of us, we all can develop stuff along the way. Maybe your dog's developing a stainless issue, in which case then, if that is the problem, then there's I think Kurrigan is the name. Kurrigan collar, Herm Springer makes a Kurrigan, which is like, it's kind of like orangish rust color. And that's supposed to be very helpful for dogs that might have skin irritations or allergies or stuff like that. So cheapest way to try it out, get a new one for 25, 30 bucks, put it on him, see how we do, and then keep track of, like, is my dog pulling more than usual? Maybe he's just like putting more pressure on the collar. And if not, you should be able to sort it out with a new collar.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything to add to that?
You said it all.
I said it all. Thank you, man.
Okay.
Yes.
Question number 8. That was really loud and obnoxious.
I know.
I'm sorry.
That's the problem. Every once in a while you slip. You don't realize it. You're pegging it.
Obnoxious meter.
Pegged. It would actually be this way.
How do you not know, like, the way of our number hands, but you know what the way of, like, an obnoxious meter should go?
I'm making it up, but if I was looking at the obnoxious meter,
see, that's what I'm saying.
It would be left to right.
Yeah, but how do you
not for them? But I just
weird.
I'm really good with certain things, and some things I'm just not so good with. So
okay, so question number 8 is from Bethany Wilson Davison.
Yes.
Bethany says, "Hi guys.
Hey, Bethany.
Hopefully you'll find my question relevant to dog owners with multiple dogs with e-collars."
Strangely enough, I just chatted with Bethany on the phone last night.
I heard about that.
Hey, Bethany.
You guys had a little phone conversation.
Yeah, it was nice. It was lovely to talk. I think I surprised her.
Why?
She didn't expect to hear from me directly.
Oh, wow.
Like, it's Sean O'Shea from the Good Dog Show.
It's me.
It's good to chat with you, though.
That's awesome. She lives around here, right?
She's in LA, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So she says, "I'm in the beginning stages of opening my own rescue and rehab, Rough Start Rehab. Please let us know everything, Bethany. We want to know everything. We want to help you out if you're in the area. That's awesome. Love the idea of you, who's super savvy with all this stuff, starting a rescue
that could
rehab.
be so cool.
Yeah. And we could recommend you and all that stuff. I fully intend on applying your methods with mine. However, I'm concerned that all those e-collars, is there any ever risk of crossover or interference, accidentally signaling another dog collar to stimulate? I'm not much of a tech person, which I'm trying to remedy, but since you know the guy from e-collar technologies, Greg, I thought you might have some great insight on this. Thank you so much. You guys have really inspired me. Before I came across you guys, I was really feeling down in the dumps, working for several rescues that were really limiting my ability to train dogs.
Wow.
You guys have really helped light a fire under me just to decide to get out there and do it myself.
That rocks, Bethany.
I can't thank you enough for that. That's awesome,
that's
Bethany.
super cool.
Yes.
Yeah, please let us know all the developments going on with your rescue.
I love that.
It's super awesome stuff, and boy, do we love hearing about that stuff.
Yeah,
so real quick, so let me jump into this. So, luckily, I spent an inordinate amount of time when I was in college in chemistry class and I studied a lot of like more of the techie stuff. A lot of people just know about like my music
I love how
career
you
and stuff
said
like that.
chemistry and techie. I
Hey.
love how you said college, chemistry class,
You're pegging, okay?
and then you said techie.
Right? Just roll
There's
with
no
me here. Just roll with
technology
me here.
involved.
Right? So, and I was in engineering class. I took a bunch of like classes that wouldn't typically be your class that you would assume like for a musician or something like that. Because I really wanted to have a diverse background, be able to solve things, be like handy and stuff like that. So took a lot of electronics classes.
Yeah, I bet.
And so I learned a lot about this specific stuff and radio waves and how they work and how they could be how things could get complicated or be problematic. And but the good news is I'm going to go straight to the source and not use my.
Oh, you're a genius.
I'm going to put it on the back burner. And I'm going to defer to of all people. Greg Van Curen, the president. It's like we got the president on the phone.
We got the president.
I got the president on the phone. Greg Van Curen, who is he's the owner, right?
Yeah.
Owner, CEO, big head muckety muck of eCollar Technologies, is a really sweet guy, super helpful. The amount of customer service is staggering that these guys provide. A lot of other eCollar companies were more prominent and very entrenched with a lot of trainers. And then eCollar Technologies came along and pretty much has it's flipped things in such a quick way through being really friendly, really helpful, really accessible, amazing, mind-blowing customer service, really interactive. Greg's really interactive on social media with all of us trainers, and he checks with us and asks like, hey, what do you think of this design? And so he's just the bomb. He's really generous. He's really awesome. And from his vacation pictures, he's pretty like, he's pretty yoked.
Yeah.
So that said, he's going to answer the question for you, and I'll put my not inconsiderable expertise on the back burner for this.
Can you tell him that you're joking about that?
What do you mean?
He doesn't even know how to like control shift on a computer to like get things all highlighted in a row. Okay.
Come in, Greg.
Yeah, hi. This is Greg with eCollar. Yeah, we get a lot of customers asking about interference with eCollars. With ours, we use 19 bits. We have 2 million different codes, so there's no chance of ever interfering with another educator eCollar. But that's one type of interference. Another type of interference is from RC planes, and sometimes those can cause interference, but that's very rare. And then the third type of interference is when you've got, let's say, two educators or two of any eCollars that are real close to each other and you're pushing the buttons. That kind of interference can cause a problem where the receiver may not work because the receiver saturated with too much power. In the case if you've got a few educators together, you can take off their antennas if you're in close proximity, and you can still do the short range work without them interfering. But as far as ever having an educator set off another educator, totally impossible. All right, if you got any other questions, let me know. Thanks.
I can't believe you're calling me out for like not knowing this stuff. Of course I'm going to divulge it.
Oh, I wanted to make sure that you were going to. So people didn't think like...
It's about being funny.
It's funny. Yes, okay. It's about being funny, okay.
It doesn't mean it is. It's about being funny, right?
Okay.
It aspires to funny.
Question.
Funny or die.
Jordan Brown.
Yeah.
Jordan Brown says at question number 9, Hi Sean and Laura, I'm wondering about teaching a dog to stay off the furniture. I e-collar trained my dog Molly about 6 months ago to deal with her snotty dog aggression, now long gone. So
did Jay-Z sing about her?
What?
Molly?
Oh yeah. So she has an excellent grasp on the concept. I was thinking of your Molly. No,
the other one.
We don't talk about drugs on this show.
No, but you were just that he doesn't need drugs.
Right.
You were just talking about how awesome his life is, that he doesn't need that kind of stuff. So we were just, sorry, we do digress.
I know, it's a G-rated show.
Yeah, but he's safe for consumption.
So she has an excellent grasp on the concept of how to deal with what?
There's so many jokes go on here that nobody has any idea what the hell we're talking about. It's so like, no wonder we're obnoxious. Sorry guys, I apologize. This is the last episode, by the way. We're
Ever.
throwing the towel in.
I e-collar trained my dog Molly about 6 months ago to deal with her snotty dog aggression, so she has an excellent grasp on the concept. Her thing is now sneaking onto the couches when I'm working in my office or at night.
Molly.
I'm wondering how I should correct her. Right now I'm pairing the stim with
Sounds
a
like
no
Hercules.
and using a moderate correction. Okay. Right now I'm pairing the stim with a no and using a moderate correction.
Yeah.
Using this method, she'll hop down right away, but she still sneaks back on the couch or bed several hours later. Should I dial up? Should I forget the no and do a sneak attack? Thanks in advance for the advice. Thanks to your Q&A Saturdays and the videos. This is her last remaining issue. Aww,
Wow, that's
Jordan.
pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Awesome.
Has Jordan been around? Jordan Brown?
Been waiting for my secret question. I know this is it. It's gotta be it.
Laura's secret surprise. How'd you know?
Because there was less writing and I saw the blah blah.
What's it say?
Blah blah blah.
It says,
Use
dog
my
sneaks
rule.
on the furniture. She's used
Be sure to blah 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 and don't forget to
hoist the mainsail. I'm just writing. I just have to write. I have to put down here because she can see my notes, so she doesn't know when it's Laura's secret surprise question or it's not much of a surprise. So I have to actually write stuff. But typically, I just write blah blah blah.
smarty pants. Okay.
So you ready? You ready
Yes,
to help?
Jordan.
Has Jordan been on the show
yeah.
before?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jordan Brown.
Old friend.
Okay, I think she changed her profile pic. I noticed that.
Trying to give us a slip.
Okay, so let's see. Her thing is sneaking on couches. Yeah. Okay, Jordan, this is an easy one. This is what we call active God. So she's familiar with the e-collar. She knows what it means. She knows what the stim means. She knows that when she's doing something, she feels the stim. She's not supposed to be doing that anymore.
And what is she doing when she's getting moderate stims?
She's jumping off,
And then?
jumping back on.
Exactly.
So what we need to do is we basically need to set it up, like you said, do a sneak attack. So we don't need the no, just like you had mentioned in here. And just because when you have the no and you have the moderate correction, you have the dog relying on the fact that you have to be there and you have to be there to correct. So when you're asleep, you're not there and the dog knows. And that the correction is a moderate correction, like you say, but not that big of a deal in the end. So I just like with my dog Hercules, if I walk in and he's on the couch and I give him a little tap on the e-collar or something like that, and he squeals and and then he like runs off. If I leave again, he'll do it again. So
yeah, Hercules.
So I just have to, just like you're going to have to do, go way higher, find that level that is significant. It's the same thing as if a dog's eating food off the counter or, eating poop in the backyard or digging or something like that.
Yeah.
We just want to make it so that the dog, even when he's all alone, goes, I'm not going to do that, right? In this case, being on the furniture isn't as dangerous as like digging or eating something off a counter, but it's something you don't like. So we want to discourage that. So what I would do is hide out when you know that she's going to do it.
Could use a camera. Could use
a camera. You could be in another room. It sounds like because you mention it, you probably have an idea of how you would do that as a secret sneak attack. So do that sneak attack. It's going to be a higher correction than you're used to, probably than your dog's felt. Not the most fun thing in the world, but guess what? Once or maybe twice, depending on your dog's stubbornness, and that's going to be a thing of the past.
Yeah.
So, just remember that it's for a long-term goal. I personally am a big fan of a higher correction once or twice rather than a moderate correction over time, like once a day or something.
Managing the dog.
I would, if I was, maybe this is just me, but I want to know, it's like if someone's mad at me, I don't want them to ignore me and then tell me like when they like feel like it. I want them to just tell me. You know what I mean? Like rip the Band-Aid off, like just tell me fully. And that's the same thing with this, is like do one rather than like make it this long drawn out process.
Mommy doesn't like this.
Exactly.
No,
forget that. Just make it happen.
Yeah.
And it may not be so fun because the dog might do a little yelp and do its thing, but it's going to stop. And then, with the sneak attack, then the dog will be like, whoa, couches are not a good thing. The other thing that I do, because now Hercules does not go on the couch, but I also will put something on, I've got these little books that I'll put on my 2 couch cushions, but he's different than
For him to read,
dog.
so he can study while you're gone? How to
He
be a
actually
good
will
dog.
see the books and not go up there because he doesn't like to be anything touching his body, but he's just a weird dog, so never mind. Don't do that. Just do the sneak attack.
Yeah.
It may take you 2 or 3 times, but you'll be golden.
Yeah. The whole goal, excellently answered, by the way,
Thank you.
is not just managing or nagging, but creating a future inhibition,
Yep.
which is what Laura's talking about, right?
Yep.
That future inhibition is creating a little groove in the dog's brain of last time I jumped on the couch, it was really uncomfortable, and so I'm going to make a different choice. I'm going to make a different selection. I'm going to lay here. But as long as the reward of the couch supersedes the temporary discomfort of your moderate correction, it's going to win every single time.
Not to mention your dog's getting a message over and over and over that you are to be blown off. So you've been saying in this light way, no, with a moderate correction, no, with a moderate correction, and the dog keeps doing it. So that's going to ease out and trickle out into other things in your guys' life and relationship. So by knocking this one off, it's just one more way to get you guys closer to being a balanced, duo.
Relationship in a good space.
Yeah.
Nice work, lady.
Thanks.
Cool.
Secret surprise. Quick.
Secret surprise. Knocks it out of the
Knock
park.
him down.
Blah, blah, blah.
Now you have to change.
I'll come up with something. I'll have to write out the whole answer to the
Yeah.
question and then code it somehow for myself. All right. You ready for the next one?
Yep.
Nice work.
Thanks.
Don't sit here and gloat. Let's go.
I'm not gloating. Question number 10. This is from Casey Naklik.
Yeah. Casey's been a regular
Yeah.
visitor to us, to our world.
Casey says, "Hi, Sean and Laura. I'm
Hey.
seeking more of your wisdom. My adult male Aussie travels with us when we visit and stay at my parents' house. The issue comes when my mother's around the dog and I am not. He becomes territorial and protective of my room and will nip at ankles and keep people out. The obvious solution would be to crate him, but his behavior is worse when he can guard his crate, and he's got some leg issues that make him very sore after being confined to a crate for more than an hour. My first instinct is to teach my mother how to use the e-collar and do some basic obedience drills with him so she's comfortable with using it and he's comfortable following commands from her, but I'd love to hear your advice on this. He's also been a problem in the past when we traveled with him and stayed in friends' houses or other unfamiliar places."
Sounds like we have a little more of a problem than just with mom and just some guarding. So we'll get to that in a sec. So, Casey Naklik. Cool name, by the way. Okay, so the question was, should you have mom? Cool thing is the dog's on the e-collar, on e-collar, which is fantastic. So, yeah, I would. I'd have your mom work with the dog. Typically what we find is that once somebody starts working with the dog, things shift a lot. Perception of that person shifts from being like, this is my mom and she's the only one that works with me and we got this thing, to, oh, you give me commands too, and that changes just the perception of who that person is in their world. So I would definitely empower mom with that. Now, that said, I would do whatever, teach your mom. E-collar is pretty easy if you're already at corrective phase. Teach your mom how to do all the basic commands, sit down, place, recall. And then I would go after this specific situation, right? So get your mom into a good groove and then have your mom, however that situation looks when you guys are at your mom's house and you're not there and the dog is, I guess the dog's like by the room or in the room or something like that. So your mom walks up, e-collar in hand. I would teach your mom what a good, effective, firm, crisp correction is, right? Not a, here, come over here, not a like naughty girl, like knock that crap off, like a correction that's got some real teeth to it. So first thing I would do, mom walks up, if she sees any guarding posture, growling, any kind of like slinking down, any of that stuff, your mom's going to roll up. You should tell her what level you think is going to be right. She's going to say no. Pop the button, quick tap. The dog should go, holy mackerel, what was that? Then your mom can dial down, recall the dog to her, right? She doesn't need to use the button for that if you're at corrections, but I just want her to dial down anyways in case she has to use it again. Recall the dog to her, away from whatever spot the dog was guarding, put the dog in a down stay, and then have your mom go do whatever she was going to do. I would actually like have the dog follow her around, right? So if I walk in, if the way I want it to be recreated is like, say I'm your mom, and I walk in, oh dearie, what's going on in here? Oh, we got a growling Aussie. No. Dog goes, arr! Come down. Dog's like, oh man, this is a whole different story. And then whatever your mom wants to do, if your mom needs to go into your bedroom, then leave the dog in a down, stay there. If your mom's just walking by and getting hassled by your dog, then tell your mom to come to your dog and have your dog just follow her, right? Like non-negotiable, follow me. And the dog moves away. I don't know what you use. I don't know if you use a let's go or a heel for off leash. We just use recall to keep the dog in a little bubble with us. So your mom walks away, come, get your butt over here. Mom starts headed down the stairs. Dog's like, no, I'm going to stay here. Come, get your butt over here. All of that non-negotiable stuff, put that dog into a different group with your mom. But don't forget, it's so easy to like want to sidestep the corrective part of it. And I'm a really firm believer in first you have to say, don't do that anymore. And now I'll call you. A lot of people are like, give them a behavior that's not compatible, not compatible with what they want to do. Yeah, but that doesn't give that future inhibition of I want to make a different choice. So any growly, snarly, guardy, pop, no, actually no, pop, and then recall the dog away. Dog goes in a downstate. Your mom does whatever the heck she wants to do. It's her house. Dog, you zip it up over there. If any more growling transpires, no, and a pop. And then however your mom wants to move through the house, if she wants to call the dog. I personally, excuse me, microphone. I personally, if this is going on and it's happening when you're not there, I would not have the dog allowed to be by your room. That dog would be in place or in a downstate by your mom, under your mom's guard, on your mom's watchful eye, right? Turn that whole thing around. The only way that dog can guard is by being allowed to guard and being away. And then that's how you get the dynamic of like, someone's approaching. Oh, now I'm guarding. No, get the hell out of there. Get over here and you lay down. Like, get your mom into a tough love mode with that dog and have her just bust that dog's behind in a positive way. But place or down and have your mom watch and enforce, man, that'll turn that whole thing around. And then you can start to really cultivate and carve out a really nice thing where that dog's being much more respectful and polite. And why do dogs guard and be territorial? Because they're allowed to, because they get to. Now, that's symptomatically, that's why they do it. But I'm going to ask Laura, what do you think might also kind of be going on if we've got like guarding Casey and stuff like that? What else could she maybe be doing
maybe
wrong?
Some relationship stuff between you and your dog is typically what we see. Not all the time, because I know you do great work. It's just possibly what we see is when relationships, when there's too much affection, too little rules, too little structure, and then the affection versus discipline scale is way off, then you get a dog that is becoming more insecure and anxious, but it's coming off as guarding, bratty, protective, crappy stuff. So what we want to do is I'm
guarding this.
Work on that relationship that you have with your dog when your mom's not around, when no one's around, and see if that, because typically that's like the biggest part of it.
To me, it really feels like we're giving you some approaches to like reconcile this. Yeah. But when dogs guard, I've written blogs about this. When dogs guard, it's typically because owners have become something that's guardable. Yeah. Right? My dogs don't guard me. Hercules doesn't guard you. I don't think he does, right?
He couldn't if he tried.
But dogs typically only guard when the perception has been allowed to become such that you can be guarded. I really am a firm believer that leaders give information to dogs and you protect and guard your dog. And when it's more of like unsure to the dog and follower in their eyes, too much affection, too much freedom, too much access, then you become a resource to be guarded, to be protected, to be like Gollum style, like mine kind of stuff like that. So I'd look at the whole thing, right? So I gave you a protocol for like your mom knocking it out of the park, but I'd like you to go deeper and look at like, and you may be doing it all right? Maybe it's just a weird thing going on, but take a look at it and give us a little honest assessment of whether you think maybe access, when I say access, to your personal space. Dogs that have a tendency to do this kind of stuff and are allowed to be constantly on your lap or too close to your feet, can develop this kind of resource guarding stuff. And typically they're insecure dogs that do that.
Yep.
Cool. So those are all the questions, correct?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to ask you a quick question. You ready?
Yep.
I'm just switch things up.
Just switch it up.
How do you like this? Show's got some twists and turns you never know about, right?
It's like a roller coaster.
Right. I was just going to check and see if there's any, because I think I recommended last week, Obstacles to the Way.
Yeah.
Any cool books, audio, video, anything?
Oh.
Because you're always studying, reading great stuff.
Yes.
So anything that you've stumbled on this week?
Well, the one that I stumbled on, not this week, but the last week, going off that old, when we talked about that Chase Jarvis, that Brene Brown, some of you guys responded on that. And this is getting into like, it's kind of some different sort of stuff, but Brene Brown wrote a book called Men, Women, and Worthiness, and I listened to it. It was an audiobook that she actually read, so it was cool to hear her read it, and I was blown away by it. I was really, really blown away. It really touched me in a really just cool sense. She's just such a cool feminist without being like
a hard ass.
Yeah.
Or without being feminine.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
She's like the most feminine, but that all is beside the point. It's just that book is really cool. It talks about shame, it talks about worthiness, it talks about roles of men and women and what we play and stuff like that. It's maybe a little bit off topic.
Not at all.
Q&A.
No, that's what I was asking. Like,
Yeah.
because you always read great stuff, and I know you actually mentioned that book to me. I think last week you were saying it was
when I
really
was reading
blowing
it,
your
I was
mind.
like texting everyone I know, you have to read this, you have to read this. So I actually should read it again because it was just so good. But yeah, it really changed my perspective on a lot of stuff. You know, it kind of, she's actually a leading psychologist and researcher on shame, just in general, and she talks a lot about shame in that book and how shame is such a taboo subject, even in the world of medicine, even in the psychological world.
Yeah.
Like, not a lot of people want to talk about shame because it's such a,
Bummer.
people will talk about guilt. Yeah, they'll talk about all this other stuff, but that one is so weird. And so she's really, her goal has always been to just blow the lid off that and make it much more like less of a scary thing so that people can deal with it and move on with their life. So if anyone deals, you know, I think, like she says, everyone does.
I think everybody's got stuff with that.
Yeah.
And even like, because I think a lot of people feel this is very female-centric.
Yeah.
And, you know, that Brene Brown that we recommended her video, I sent out to a bunch of guy friends, and a lot of them were really blown away by it.
It's like, I'd recommend it to men almost more than women. She even talks about the specific thing of like, she used to just study women, and this one guy, and she'll tell the story better than I can ever, so just read it. But she talks about this guy really like turning her whole perspective on stuff and saying something to the effect of, like, my wife and daughter would rather see me die on my white horse than ever fall off of it. Okay.
So you're talking about a white horse?
White horse, yeah, finish that.
Well, we just battery die? Is that what we had?
Yes, we just had a battery die, so I
back.
think I just finished what I was saying. But basically, yeah, she talks a lot about, you know, just shame in men and women, and it's definitely something that it's like a quick audiobook, or it's a short read if you buy it, and the name sounds very kind of like, you know, men, women, and worthiness. It sounds like something like my dad when I told him, he's like, I'm like,
Hand me the air sick bag.
Exactly. But it's so good. It's so much more than that. It's so much more than like, she's not self-helping anyone. She's just talking about that stuff.
That's great. Awesome.
One of my recommendations.
Awesome. Thanks. I knew you'd have something juicy for us.
And just to cap this off, if I'm talking about this book and there's a slight bit of you that feels like you want to read it, read it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you
Sometimes like books can change, like it changed my whole perspective on my life, and I just remember reading like the little bit on it and being like, men, women, worthiness, it sounds kind of weird, and then I read the little like excerpt and I was like, there's a part of me that feels like I want to read this, and it really changed my whole life. So if there's a bit of you that feels like you want to read it, listen to that.
Awesome.
And let us know.
Awesome.
Let me know.
All right. So are we officially...
I think we're out.
We're done?
Yeah.
Okay. So, guys, remember, if you use the right tools, right approach with your dog, and you love them by leading them, you guys can create the dog, well, was going to say the dog of your dreams, but I think what you can definitely do is create the best version of your dog possible.
Yeah.
So sometimes dogs come with stuff, and we can only make them the best that we can make them. But if you'll do your work and you'll use all the right stuff, and you really will love them by leading them, you can pretty massively transform even some pretty problematic dogs. So hats off to you guys for doing all this work, and for jumping into stuff that I know can be challenging, and teaching yourselves and training yourselves, and putting in the time and doing stuff that a lot of other folks won't do. So we're proud of all you guys.
Yeah.
And we're just happy to be able to help.
Yes.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, we
Right?
love you all.
We out?
Yeah. Boom!
We out.
38 in the can. Soon, in 14 weeks, it'll be a year since we started these.
Really?
Isn't that crazy?
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Awesome.
All right.
I'm digging it. The show just gets better and better.
Better and better.
I haven't had to use the air sick bag in like forever.
We are going to be doing a new intro and some new exciting stuff too, so get
Yeah.
ready for that.
Awesome.
All right?
All right, guys.
Cool,
See ya.
guys. See ya.